cutting issue. It touches on issues of land dealt within the Ministry of Land. And actually, many a times also call for a political solution that such leaders and all of us may occasionally or at times need to be called upon to help address the problem. So what I want to say, Mr. Speaker, let the leadership between the Sunguli and all of us and the people concerned able to look in an amicable way to address the problem, because it goes beyond a security issue. It touches land, it touches on the issue of boundaries. There are several cases in court talking into the same. So, Mr. Speaker, maybe I will suggest that depends on you can guide that we let the leaders able to see whether we can able to look a situation where we can able to address at a higher level, that all the players, including the Ministry of Land, the administration and political class, to sit down and look for a lasting solution into this problem.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Honorable Wandai.
You know, Honorable Speaker, I have listened keenly to the response from the very able chair of National Security Committee, my friend Honorable Tongoyo. But I am left wondering, because you know, this House, under Article 95 of the Constitution, is mandated to resolve issues that concern the people. That issue is serious from the way I am able to get to decipher. It's an issue that can potentially evolve into a problem, a bigger problem, if not addressed with the seriousness it deserves. It's an issue concerning 3 large communities, the Kuria, the Kipsigis, and the Maasai. Honorable Speaker, would I be in order to suggest perhaps that this issue goes beyond the committee of my friend Honorable Tongoyo, and perhaps with your guidance, we set up a mechanism, be it a committee, be it a tribunal, whatever it is, to address that conflict in an expeditious manner. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, history might judge us very harshly as a House that we settled on a matter which could have been resolved, and yet we left it to snowball into something unmanageable. That's my take, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Owen Bayer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you know, I also serve as chairman of minority groups. And my advice is, through your guidance, that you set a select committee of, or an ad hoc committee of Parliament from members from this area, so that they can sit and look at an amicable solution, instead of looking at a more administrative solution, but they look at a communal, they look at a solution that is participatory. Because the Constitution of Kenya also allows us to have an ADR, an alternative dispute mechanism. And that, therefore, will give the people of Kuria, the Kipsigis, the Maasai, an opportunity to sit down as elders to get a solution instead of a more administrative solution that may not be acceptable to all. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Tongoyo, you come from the county where this issue is coming from. I would advise you that you have a session in your committee with the 2 members, and if you want to escalate the matter, you can involve the Lands Committee to see how to resolve the matter without raising passions. Minority Leader and Owen Bayer, if you want to set up a committee, you know the procedure. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, resolution to hold a Thursday morning sitting.
Honorable Majority Leader, where is Ichungwa?
Proceed. No, the leader is here. Let me come and do it to himself. Proceed.
Majority Leader, move your procedural motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 33C, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 20th June 2024, commencing at 9:30 a.m. for purposes of considering priority business. Honorable Speaker, this is on behalf of the House Business Committee that met this afternoon, earlier this afternoon, and the House Business Committee considered bringing this resolution and, through this procedural motion to allow members adequate time, Honorable Speaker, to debate without anticipating debate the finance bill of 2024-2025, which we expect to be tabled in the course of this sitting by the Chair of Finance. And also, Honorable Speaker, considering that many members are very interested in contributing to the debate on the finance bill, we thought it would be wise to have a morning sitting on Thursday. We will have tomorrow the whole day from 9:30 all the way up to 9 p.m. Then we also allow members Thursday morning, Honorable Speaker, as you directed during the House Business Committee earlier today, we have up to 5 p.m. on Thursday for debate of the second reading of that bill. Honorable Speaker, there is also priority business in considering the Senate amendments to the IBC bill. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, there are two constituencies that still have no representation in this House and are bound to have by-elections, but we cannot do that because we do not have an IBC commission. And therefore, it's imperative that we consider the amendments that were done to that bill by the other House, consider them, and if we agree with them, then that bill can be assented into law and we kick off the process of the recruitment of new IBC commissioners. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg members to support and agree with the House Business Committee that we do have that Thursday morning sitting, and I wish to request the Leader of Minority, who is also a member of the House Business Committee, to second. I beg to move.
Honorable Speaker, I wish to second the motion, but I want to add the following. Obviously, members from across the political divide would want adequate time to be able to contribute to the matter of the finance bill at the second reading stage. And that's why it was in the wisdom of the House Business Committee that we allocate enough sitting days. That is Wednesday morning, tomorrow, Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, and possibly Thursday afternoon, for members to be able to contribute effectively and for their constituents to get to know where they stand on this very important matter. Honorable Speaker, secondly, I want to agree that the matter of the IBC is so crucial. Honorable Speaker, we now have two constituencies that have got no representation in this House. That is Banisa constituency in Mandera County and Magarini constituency in Kilifi County. Honorable Speaker, the case of Banisa constituency is very sad, extremely sad, that they have lacked representation in this House from March last year, Honorable Speaker. And you all know, Honorable Speaker, the procedures for reconstituting the IBC, even after this bill is finally enacted into law, is going to take some time, Honorable Speaker, maybe 4 months or so, Honorable Speaker. So I think it is in order, therefore, that we approve this motion, but as soon as we do so, I have been trying to scan around. I can't see the chair of the Committee on Finance in the House, and yet I've been waiting eagerly to lay my hands on the report of the committee. Because this morning, we were treated to some very juicy news by Honorable Kimani Chungwa and the chair from State House about certain measures they have taken on the finance bill. But as I always say, the taste of the pudding lies in the eating. Until and unless we see the report of the committee containing those very far-reaching amendments that we were made to understand have been made, we cannot be sure, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we want to see that report eagerly. We are waiting here eagerly to see that report and to dissect it and to go through it with a tooth comb before we can make informed decisions, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, with those preliminary remarks, I support the motion. Thank you. I second, sorry.
You second. Order, honorable members on their feet, take your seats. Honorable members on their feet, take your seats. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33C, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 20th June 2024, commencing at 9:30 a.m. for purposes of considering priority business. I put the question. Honorable members, I now put the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33C, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 20th June 2024, commencing at 9 a.m. for purposes of considering priority business. As many as of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, procedural motion, reduction of publication period of specified bill.
Majority, no, Chairman, Budget and Appropriations Committee. Dindi Nyoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 120, that this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2024, from 7 days to 5 days. Honorable Speaker, the essence of this is because the calendar that we have now between today and next week is very tight. We'll be discussing very major and far-reaching policy instruments in this House, and especially the Finance Bill alongside the Appropriations Act or Bill. And Honorable Speaker, the essence of this is for us to meet the timelines as we move to the close of this financial year by end of this month. And Honorable Speaker, at the same time, we have still given ample time even for members to peruse and interrogate the appropriation bill, because Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, these two processes that we'll be having are intertwined. And the reason we have decided that we have the appropriation bill after the finance bill is because this is a very democratic House and the country is very democratic, and we want us to first trace where the monies are coming from even before we finalize on the appropriation bill, so that whatever members may feel around the appropriation, the finance bill, can also be taken care of in the appropriations bill, Honorable Speaker, so that we are able to balance our revenue and expenditure. And I am hopeful that we'll be looking at these matters in a very objective manner, because we are all, Honorable Speaker, looking forward into the many programs that we have undertaken to complete and undertake. For example, electricity in our constituencies will be getting 50 million per constituency, and all the others, including the increment in the agricultural sector, in the CDF, and all the other elements that are very important for service delivery in regards to the Kenyan people. Also, the monies that we are appropriating to our counties, which is 400.1 billion shillings, is also hedged, Honorable Speaker, on this bill, but alongside this bill, also the revenue side, which is the motion that is a heavy motion before us, which will be moved by the Chairman, Honorable Kimani Kuria. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request that the Honorable, the very able Didimas Barasa, the man of Kofia, to second this motion.
Didimas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second this motion, and just like the chair has explained, is very, in very good term, very clear terms, Honorable Speaker. We have a lot that this House is going to process, and most importantly, we must meet the timeline, considering that we are coming to the end of this financial year. And Honorable Speaker, this House is youthful. We are able to go through the finance bill, and we'll be able to understand where these monies are coming from. Without much ado, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Didymus. Order, Honorable Commissioner Makau. Order. Commissioner Makau, freeze or take the nearest seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2024, from 7 days to 5 days. We put the question? Yes, Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker, I see no merit in reducing the dates or the days that we have in this bill. The number of days we are talking about, this bill is already published, but it is 5 days old. In fact, if we then reduce it, then it becomes ripe, which in number 10, you then can see it can be put before the House to be read a first time. So actually, mathematically, what we are talking about is 2 days. We have already passed a resolution to discuss tomorrow, to discuss the issues concerning the finance bill tomorrow. And Honorable Speaker, the majority leader just let us know from the House business you have directed that this can go between tomorrow up to Thursday. So actually, we then can properly examine this bill if it were to be, if it were to take the 7 days on Tuesday next week, quite properly. It would have taken 7 days in the normal manner of things, and we would then begin debate on it on Wednesday, on Tuesday. Now, Mr. Speaker, for us to accept this, a person moving the bill or the person seconding must give us reasons. The only reason I have had is that we are going to discuss very important bills. But there is nothing which takes away, because the 7 days is for the common person to interact with the bill, as well as the member representing that person to interact with this bill. And so, if there is no reason other than the fact that we are going to discuss some very important issues in the course of today and tomorrow, the chair of budget has not given us a very good reason for which we have to extend these dates. I submit.
Honorable Kajwang, you are a member of House Business Committee, aren't you? And you know that allocating the finance bill, the number of days that we did, does not mean it will consume all the days. In case it ends early, then this motion becomes relevant, but it's entirely up to the House. Can I put the question now? I now put the question, which is that pursuant the provisions of Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2024, from 7 days to 5 days. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Then the ayes have it. Honorable members, you're calling the next order? Honorable members, as we go to the next order, it is expected that the chairman of the Finance Committee, member for Molo, will be tabling his report or his committee report this afternoon. I have not seen it yet. I have to approve it to be tabled, so when I recess, I'll have to perform that function. Once that is done, the report will be available at the table office. I encourage each and every honorable member to get the report either from the table office physically or on the parliamentary web. Read through it properly. Upon doing so, we have allocated time as follows. Tomorrow morning from 9:30, the finance bill will be moved by the committee chairman. It will be open to debate the whole of tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, you have just approved a sitting for Thursday morning. And remember that tomorrow you will sit up to 9:30 or 9 in the night. On Thursday morning, we'll again sit on the finance bill, and House Business Committee has directed that we will then vote on that bill on Thursday afternoon. Committee of the whole on the same bill will come on Tuesday afternoon. Those of you who want to file any amendments, and I've seen some, I've in fact approved some, although it will be more decent and proper to file your amendments after reading the report to see whether you are proposing amendments that have already been dealt with by the committee. I have directed the clerk that the closure for submitting amendments will be on Thursday at 1 p.m. So those of you who want to file any amendments upon reading the report and the bill, ensure that you file your amendments at or before Thursday, 1 p.m. Thereafter, you'll be time barred, and don't say you are not given proper direction. I hope that when the bill is debated from tomorrow, you will debate from an informed position on the content of the bill, the content of the report, and what you desire the bill to be. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 10, the appropriation bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issuance of a sum of money out of the consolidated fund and its application towards the service of the year ending on 30th June 2025, and to appropriate that sum and a sum voted on account by the National Assembly for certain public services and purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11, the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bill number 19 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the additional allocations to county governments for the year 2024-2025, for the 2024-2025 financial year, the responsibilities of the national government and county governments pursuant to such allocation and for connected purposes. Order number 12, the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 25 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the equitable allocation of revenue raised nationally among the county governments for the 2024-2025 financial year, the responsibilities of national and county governments pursuant to such allocation and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 13, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bill number 29 of 2023, second reading.
Beatrice Kemei, you are the co-sponsor of that Senate bill. It's now your time to move the bill. Give her the mic. a functioning mic. There you are.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill 2023, the Senate Bill number 29 of 2023 be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, the principal objective of the bill is to provide a legal framework for the care and protection of child parents within the counties. The framework is intended to ensure that an expectant child or a child parent may actualize their right to basic education and at the same time ensure proper care of their children and as enshrined in Article 53 of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, 61 years since Kenya gained its independence from colonial rule, child pregnancies remain a huge concern as they not only affect the child's ability to continue with their education, but they also impact on the government's effort in reducing poverty levels in the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics in the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey conducted in 2022 noted that 15% of adolescent women between 15 and 19 years have ever been pregnant, with 12% having given birth, 1% experiencing pregnancy loss, and 3% being pregnant with their first child. Kenya National Bureau of Standards further noted that the number of teenage pregnancies is higher in rural areas, particularly in pastoralist communities, compared to urban areas. It further noted that teen pregnancies decline as the level of education rises, and further that it also declines as the level of household wealth increases. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 in Article 53(1), Part B, C, and D provides for the right of a child to free and compulsory basic education, the right to basic nutrition, shelter, and health care, and the right to protection and right to protection from abuse, neglect, harmful cultural practices, all forms of violence, inhuman treatment and punishment that is there, and even exploitative labor. Honorable Speaker, Section 13 of the Child Act, number 29 of 2022, reiterates the right of a child to basic education and mandates the Cabinet Secretary in charge of children matters in consultation with the Cabinet Secretary in charge of education to develop and implement policies for the realization by every child of the Constitution of the constitutional right to education. The Basic Education Act number 14 of 2013 provides that no child should be denied admission to a public school. The above, Honorable Speaker, the above notwithstanding, children who fall pregnant in school, especially those born in poor households, are likely to drop out of school so that they can fend for their babies. This not only impacts on their right to education, but also exposes them to early marriages and exploitative labor practices as they seek to fend for themselves and their children. Madam Speaker, some schools conduct mandatory pregnancy tests without the consent of the children or of the learners, and more often than not expel any student who is discovered to be pregnant. Such children are also exposed to ridicule and harassment and are often cited as examples of bad behavior, thus often leading them to drop out of school. It is also difficult for children who have been pregnant before to be readmitted to the school or to another school, as they are often shunned, with the school administration fearing that readmitting them will be viewed as tolerating ill behavior from students, which they are afraid of spreading to other students. Even where the child is readmitted to school, they sometimes have no one to leave the newborn baby with, thus leading them to either delay re-entry to school or making them not to concentrate on their studies, hence resulting to poor academic results. Madam Speaker, existing legislation only provides for the rights of children generally and does not take care of the circumstances unique to child parents. These laws do not provide for how children who fall pregnant are to be handled by the school administration during their pregnancy and also delivery. They also do not provide for ways of ensuring that once they have given birth, they are readmitted to school and have support and access to childcare facilities, particularly those without anyone to take care of their newborn babies while in school. There is also no law providing a framework for the establishment, management, and inspection of childcare facilities so as to ensure that they are safe for children. Madam Speaker, there is therefore need to create a framework to protect children in vulnerable households so as to ensure that they are able to complete their basic education and have a better chance at having better quality of life. This bill therefore seeks to provide a legal framework for the protection of the rights set out under Article 53, 1C and D of the Constitution in relation to child parents, and also through which the expectant child or a child parent can realize their right to education and at the same time ensure the care and protection of the other child, and also of standards for the establishment and regulation of care centers for child parents by county governments. Madam Speaker, clauses 4, 5, and 6 of the bill provide for the obligations of the national and county governments with respect to preventing pregnant children and child parents from dropping out of school, as well as social assistance to such children. Clause 7 of the bill provides for preparation of management plans by the school administration, which are aimed towards reduction of dropouts, as well as prescribing how pregnant children and child parents will be handled within the school. While Clause 8 of the bill provides for the rights of pregnant and parenting students, including the right to continue as they are medically capable of being in school, the right to be readmitted to school upon delivery and weaning of the baby, and the right to access adequate prenatal and antenatal health care and counseling services. Honorable Speaker, Clause 9 of the bill provides for the role of the county government in reducing dropout rates, as well as in ensuring that those who have dropped out are able to be readmitted to schools and that vulnerable children who are likely to drop out of school are catered for so that they can remain in school. While Clause 10, Honorable Speaker, of the bill provides for the school principal's role in managing teenage pregnancies in the school. Clause 11, Madam Speaker, provides for medical examination to confirm that a child is pregnant. The child cannot be compelled to undergo medical examination, and the principal may decline to inform the child's parents of the pregnancy in case they are a danger to the child. Honorable Speaker, Clause 12 and 13 provides for the pregnant child's right to receive pre- and postnatal health care and information, as well as the right to receive counseling and support services. Honorable Speaker, Clause 14 provides for confidentiality when handling the case of any child who is found to be pregnant within a school. While Clause 15 provides that where the person responsible for pregnancy is an adult, the school principal should disclose the same to the county director of education, the council, and the nearest police station. And if the person is a teacher, an additional report is to be made to the Teacher Service Commission. Honorable Speaker, Clause 16 provides for readmission of the child to school once she has given birth and weaned the baby. She is to be readmitted at the same level she was prior to giving birth. Honorable Speaker, 17 provides that the school should not discriminate against the pregnant child while she is in school on account of being pregnant or having given birth, while 18 requires parents of the pregnant child or of child to continue with their parental obligations and support the child. 19, Honorable Speaker, provides for the school's obligation to counsel the child, readmit the child once the child is born and weaned, and to continue supporting the child so that they can continue with their education. Madam Speaker, Clause 20 makes it an offense for the school administration to refuse to readmit a child once they have given birth. Upon confusion, the school principal and every member of the school administration may be fined up to 500,000 or jailed for 6 months or both. Madam Speaker, Clause 21 provides for establishment of child care centers in or within the vicinity of an institution of basic education. Clause 22 provides that child care services provided are for the benefit of the children less than 3 years old, whose parents are children who are being readmitted to school. Clause 23, Honorable Speaker, provides for the requirements of a child care center, which includes accessibility, affordability, ability to give adequate supervision to the children, and availability of qualified personnel together for the children. Honorable Speaker, Clause 22 to 33 provide for licensing of child care centers by counties. Counties are also required to enact legislation to guide the licensing process within the county. Honorable Speaker, Clause 35 provides for the services that are to be provided in the child care center, which include the care and supervision of children, counseling of child parents, outreach programs, and recreational and activities. Madam Speaker, Clause 37 provides for inspection and evaluation of safety in the care center and the obligation to keep the premises safe for children and to have contacts of emergency services providers such as hospitals, ambulances, and firefighting services. Madam Speaker, 42 provides for continued recognition of care centers which are already in existence and are already licensed. Madam Speaker, implementing the measures proposed in the bill will ensure protection of child parents and ensure that the country moves closer to 100% access to basic education and by children in Kenya. Madam Speaker, I now want to stop with these remarks, and I beg Madam Emase, Honorable, to second.
Honorable Emase. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to second the bill on care and protection of child parents, Bill 2023. Madam Speaker, this is a very straightforward bill. It is very timely. It is coming at a time when we are dealing with so many issues around children, gender-based violence, pregnancies caused by even relatives, that is incest, at a time when the statistics are very clear. We are being told that 15% of women or children between the age of 15 and 19 become pregnant, where 12% are able to give birth, 3% even they lose their children in the process, and 1% happen to be pregnant for the first time. Honorable Speaker, therefore, this bill, as we have been told, seeks to provide a legal framework so that as a government, we are able to manage to deal with the issue of teenage pregnancies. We have a framework that provides on how this matter is to be dealt with by the county governments, by the national government, because children or an expectant child has got rights. But this is an area which we do not seem as legislators to have given the attention that it deserves. Honorable Speaker, this bill, therefore, seeks to ensure that there is a proper plan. If a child is expectant, how should that child be handled? How should the school administration address the matter such that this child is guaranteed the right to education? This child's baby is taken care of by government. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to really thank Honorable Beatrice and the Senate for coming up with this bill, because teenage pregnancy is a problem. And once these children are guaranteed of education even after conceiving, then we are assured that we are able in the future, going forward, to continue bringing down the numbers in terms of these teenage pregnancies. Honorable Speaker, in each of our constituencies, every day we encounter the number of schools that are reported, even to report as many as 20 or more pregnancies, even in our schools. So we need this legislation so that these children are taken care of. There is proper guidance. There is even psychosocial, counseling in schools to guide them so that they are not harassed or ridiculed in schools, so that these children are able to continue with the school, and by ensuring that they have the right to education and they are able to continue the education, then as a nation we're able to address so many other multiplier effects of those dropouts, and we're able to deal with issues of poverty. And Honorable Speaker, I think with those few remarks, I second the motion. Thank you.
Honorable members, allow me now to propose the question that the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bill number 29 of 2023, be read a second time.
Honorable TJ, I can see.
My contribution, Madam Speaker, will be very short. Madam Speaker, if you examine this bill, how come it is not a money bill? In the memorandum, it has been set there, and it is said not to be a money bill.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you start again?
I am saying, if you look at this bill, how else can you explain that it is not a money bill? Money bill. If you check the memorandum, and if you check the statements that accompanying it, it is said not to be a money bill. But when you open it up, it creates centers. It talks about inspectors. These inspectors must be employed by somebody. These inspectors must be supervised or coordinated somewhere. These centers must be maintained by the public exchequer. And even when you open up those big premises of policy on protecting the child, definitely the child would have to be protected where there are functions which money follows. I am really sympathetic to the girl child. I really want to have a bill which fixes the issue of the girl child. But since this bicameral legislation process, we have had problems where good bills are lost because of the people who sponsor them or because of the thought process behind it. Were this bill originated from this house, from where my colleague sits, if she originated this bill, we wouldn't have been talking about this issue. We would have been talking about how to reinforce it and how to make it better on how to protect the girl child. But for some reason, members on the other house, they get into issues which they do not investigate very well. And this is a constitutional issue. We cannot do something about it. Article 114 happens to be a constitutional issue. Even when the emeritus lady and a very, she's a doyen of this legislation. But Honorable Emase will see the bill. In fact, she is the member of the Budget and Appropriation. Honorable Emase, please convince us that this is not a money bill. She is still consulting. But Honorable Emase, please don't mistake us. We are the fighters.
Emase, listen.
We are the fighters for the girl child. And we want girl child to be ring-fenced. Some of us are fathers of girls. But the problem we have in this legislation is that people begin to sponsor bills without looking at the Constitution. You see an inspector there. You see the care there. It is definitely going to use the taxpayers' money. So how can it be a bill outside Article 114? Just convince us and we pass this bill with a record time. But if you are unable, my colleague, please find a way of withdrawing this bill and reintroducing it here so that you do not go away. This thing is very important to a child. We cannot just use it on technicalities. There must be somehow of how we can pass this bill, Madam Speaker, so that the real issues of the child is protected. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Ruaraka, Honorable TJ Kajwang. I think you raise a very important point, and I think I agree with you that probably before I say anything about it, I think it's important that we allow the mover of the bill, the second of the bill, and I think also Honorable Member for Baringo, maybe we start with you. Let's hear what the members have to say, but it's a very important issue you have raised. Thank you for that. Proceed, Member for Baringo, Honorable Chematia.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I also want to rise to support with a lot of amendments in this bill. I support because this is a very pertinent topic and a very important bill if it's considered and put in proper perspective. As much as I am supporting what Honorable Beatrice has given us today, Madam Speaker, if you look at this bill, it needs a lot of scrutiny. It needs a lot of, brushing and understanding on the implications that it will cost. If this bill goes like this, Madam Speaker, it's going to cost in many other ways, social, economic, and even psychosocial or psychologically. Because if you look at the framework of this bill, it speaks to protect children, specifically who are pregnant. I want to ask whether the society is even ready to have children who are pregnant. Also, when you want to take care of these children, specifically in schools, it is going to consider specifically on economic factors because we have to budget more and give keen interest on these children because their interest is so different.
One moment, Honorable Member for Baringo. Let's do this. Honorable Member for Kericho, please listen carefully because I'll give you an opportunity at the reply. So you better take notes so that you can respond. And I think also a member of the Budget Committee, I think I'd like them to say something. Proceed, Honorable Chairman.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I also want to agree with the Honorable of TJ Kajwang that this bill is most likely going to be a real money bill because of the structures that is going to be put in this for actualization of the bill. There's no way you are going to be reintroducing, these expectant children or child parents, and when you take them back to school, the consideration is going to be so much. These children or this particular child is going to be having specific interest at specific times. Also, even in the society, if you look at whether we will want to really consider having children and entertaining pregnancies in school. If you look at it very keenly, we as Africans, and as much as we have problems of teenage pregnancy in our society, I don't think we want to take it up as a promotion that it is okay for a child to be pregnant as long as he still gets the opportunity to go to school. This way, we are going to erode most of the morals in the society, in my opinion, because as much as I would not mind, or I will still encourage the child to go back to school, but it is not going to be, honestly, a good idea to encourage these girls to be pregnant just because they are able to go back to school. And more so, there will be those children who are working so hard to be very disciplined and complete their schools without necessarily being pregnant, and we will most likely be disadvantaging and in another way infecting these other ones who are keen to finish school without being pregnant. And again, we will be allowing a lot of indiscipline. If you look at most of these children, because as a women rep, I pay most of school fees for them. Their performance in school is very wanting because of the distractions that they get into society. You cannot be a mother and a student at the same time. If you ask me, this bill needs a lot of brushing. We will probably, I don't know whether we will ask the mover to withdraw and reintroduce it again so that we take time to understand and be able to help this bill make a very important impact in the society. As much as I support, I would really ask my colleague, we sit back and probably brush it properly so that we can have a better bill going forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Suba North, Honourable Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know if you are giving me the opportunity to speak or to inform the member because she has already sat down.
I just saw you on the intervention button.
Oh, I was seeking to inform the member, but she has already sat down.
But you can proceed to inform the House.
Well, I was just informing the honourable member because from the way she was talking, she seems to infer to persons below 18 years who have had children as though they are voluntary mothers. It's actually cases of sexual abuse. It is presumed anybody below 17 years who has a child is a victim of sexual abuse because they cannot consent legally to sex. So we are actually talking about an abused child in this way.
Thank you very much. I know, Honourable Millie, we've been in the trenches together with Cradle, fighting for the girl child and abused children. So I understand where you're coming from. I will also allow the member, and I think the member for Baringo is properly informed. I will allow the member from Mombasa, Honourable Zamzam Chimba.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kuunga mkono hii bill ambayo mwenzangu ameleta ya kupatia watoto wa kike nafasi ya pili kusoma. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, na nilitaka sana kuzungumza kuwa hawa watoto ambao wanapewa nafasi ya pili wengi wako ile underage, umri wa chini. Walipata ujauzito, pengine walinajisiwa, ama pengine kuna wale ambao walikuwa na forced marriages, walikuwa hawana uwezo. Kwa hiyo wanapewa nafasi ya pili kupata masomo. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ndani ya Mombasa County kama mama county nimeregesha watoto wa kike 350 na walipia full scholarship na ngafu warudi darasani wasome, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi tunataka uongozi wa mwanamke, lakini uongozi wa mwanamke una matatizo mengi sana. Mpaka afikie kiwango cha kuweza kuingia katika uongozi lazima awe amepata elimu ya kutosha. Mheshimiwa Spika, na utapata wakati mwingi Mheshimiwa Spika, mtoto wa kiume ambaye amempa mtoto wa kike ujauzito, yeye anaendelea na masomo yake, mtoto wa kike anabaki nyumbani. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nimewapa wale watoto nafasi. Mheshimiwa Spika, mpaka sasa mwaka huu watoto ambao wamemaliza kidato cha 4 na watoto 21. Niko na wengine ambao wako form 1, form 2, form 3 na wanaendelea vizuri, na wengine wameungama, wengine hata walikuwa wameingia kwenye madawa ya kulevya kwa sababu ya stress. Anashindwa, angalie mtoto anatamani apate elimu ili aweze kupata kazi, amekwama. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo mimi kitu ambacho nataka kusema ni kweli hii bill inahitaji pesa. Ikiwa kama watataka watoto wapewe sehemu ya kulelewa shuleni, basi lazima kuwe na mpango ambao serikali itawekeza pesa ya kuangalia hizi sehemu ambazo watoto watalelewa. Lakini kwa ufupi Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naunga mtoto wa kike ama young mother aweze kuregeshwa shuleni ikiwa bado ana tamaa ya elimu. Na mimi katika wale wa mama ambao wana hawa watoto, kwa sababu mpaka sasa hatuna sehemu za kuweka watoto wao shuleni, nimewaeka hawa kina mama pamoja ambao ni mama wa hawa young mothers. Nimewapa mradi, mtaji, wanafanya biashara, waweze kulea hawa watoto na hawa wenzao wakisoma. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naunga mkono, japokuwa na mashtaka moja Mheshimiwa Spika. Hata ino bili ino mimi nimeitoa kitambo, nimeweka kule katika nimetable pale katika sehemu ya kuweka bills, mpaka sasa haijakuja Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini yangu ilikuwa na sehemu nzuri ambazo wamekuwa kiuliza, kwa sababu nilijua kwa dhati kuwa hino lazima itakuwa ni money bill, lazima itahitaji mapendi, itahitaji funding. Na ya kusikitisha hata zaidi Mheshimiwa Spika, hao watoto wengine wamepata ujauzito kwa sababu wengine walikosa sodo. Mtoto amedanganywa na mandazi, akajua nitapata 100 kununua sodo niondoe aibu, mara akienda kukutana na huyo mwanaume anapata ujauzito. Na mpaka sasa mimi nasikitika, sodo za Mombasa pia bado hazijafika, licha ya kuwa mama county najibidiisha kuregesha hawa watoto shuleni. Lakini nina wasiwasi mimba watazidi kupata mimba kwa ukosefu wa sodo Mheshimiwa Spika. Na sisi tuko pamoja, hata wewe pia ni mama county, umeona tunalalamika. Tunaomba wale ambao wamepewa nafasi ya kutuletea sodo katika counties zetu waweze kuzileta ili tuweze kutoa kwa watoto. Lakini namuunga mkono, na mimi nina yangu ambao ni nzuri sana naileta, ambayo tutaweza kuijadili, iko na vitengo tofauti. Hino ni money bill na inahitaji mgao ili iweze kusaidia. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Asante sana. The Honorable Member for Seme, Honorable James Nyikau. I can see you're on the intervention.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a very interesting bill. Whereas in principle, this bill is actually very important for the girl child, the support of the girl child. But there are very basic issues about this bill, and some of them have been raised, that actually, when I saw it, the first thing, it is a money bill. Also, this bill is actually going to interact with very many other acts of parliament. And therefore, I've gone through and I've not seen how you're putting transition clauses that will raise those issues. Other than that, Madam Speaker, it is an important bill because what we are really dealing with here, we are dealing with adolescent pregnancy. And we are actually dealing with a biological problem in the context of a society that is changing. That is the problem before us. There is increasing early puberty
in children, both boys and girls. And therefore, there is increased sexual activity very early. And with the liberal upbringing and even the liberal provisions even in our laws that are protective, it therefore brings this as a big problem. Therefore, it is actually necessary to address that. Girls get into pubescent very early. Menarche comes extremely early. And when there is menarche, the starting period, they are actually ovulating. And therefore, they are capable of getting pregnant. And yet, they are still children. And with the empowerment of the girl child we are brought, there's a freedom that has come. And as a society, are we taking care of that? That is what some members are actually raising, that how shall we deal with the psychological orientation, the traditional orientation, the cultural orientation. That is actually where we start. Because if we take a strict legal definition, then anybody below 18 is a child. And if the law was nature, then they shouldn't get pregnant. But the law is not nature. So we are dealing with a legal situation against a biological situation. And these children will actually need a lot of psychological support, even if before we start thinking of education. And if they get pregnant, the impact is huge, both physiologically, physically, mentally, and even in their development. Because some of them actually get pregnant before maturity of their organs. That's a big problem. So, and if you look at development, the greatest developmental impact will be on the education. They cannot go on with education. And I think this is where this bill is camping. On that aspect, I support that we should find a way that these children will go back to school. But then we come and talking of their protection. You are actually now protecting two children. The mother is a child, the baby is a child. And we are now also bringing in centers that have been created. And if you look at what we are indicating in the center, we are even talking of children, these children giving birth at the centers. So that center becomes an extremely complex center that we are dealing with. So, Madam Speaker, in terms of education, I think the most important thing that we are actually addressing, and we look at this, is how do they get to school? What psychological support do they need when they go to school? What physical support? And the support of the baby, because some of them will come from families that are actually so disadvantaged, they can't look after a baby that is left behind. We are saying in this bill that can also be done at the centers. So if you look at this center is complex, it's huge. And how are we going to set it up without money? And therefore, this must be first and foremost looked at as a money bill. So this bill, in my view, we really need to relook at it. I support it in principle, but as set out now, I think if passed as it is, I think it will give us a lot of problems in its handling. So my view, I'll say, is that we need to relook at this bill, whether we withdraw it and bring it again, whether we look at it in a much more broader sense. But as it is, it's a good principle. It's something we should pursue, but not as it is now. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kibra, Honorable Peter Arero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to add my voice on this bill. And I think all the bills which come to this House should always pass through the Budget Committee. And when they pass through the Budget Committee, we have them either designated as money bill or not money bill. But what is most important is about how it is assumed that under 17 years is a child. I support this based on our current law. I remember, but culturally, when we were young, like myself, my mother was married at 17 years, and see how healthy I am. She gave birth to 7 healthy men and 3 healthy ladies. So, just as my colleague Dr. here is talking about 2 children, sometimes our culture makes our young girls to be married under our cultural norms. I would know where you come from. Sometimes the Wazees will always say that their daughters be married because of certain circumstances. But in the eyes of the law, I know that it is assumed that anybody under 18 is a girl, a child. But I support the bill because it is going to enrich our cultural values. It is going to enrich our society and will take care of our young girls. Otherwise, I support the bill.
Honorable Member for Dagoretti, I can see you on the intervention button.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, while I know this is a bill that every woman will support and ensure that indeed there's protection and care of every child, and the challenges we have faced, Madam Speaker, so much in issues of children today, that you find today, I'll give you a story, Madam Speaker. Just recently, there's a girl who went to the Swedish embassy. She's supposed to travel to Sweden. But because since she was born, she has never communicated to the father or anything, the parent was told that they need the father's consent. Or she goes to court and the mother to file a sole custody of the child. So you realize in such things, you need now the law to be very clear, especially for Kenyan children, because we can't also enforce parents or husbands when they leave their wives that you need to fight. And this sometimes can bring trauma to a child. So, Madam Speaker, when I talk about the care and protection of a child parents bill, it's a bill that will assist in many things, because the law internationally comes out, and within the Children's Act, we also have that protection. As they say, it might be a money bill or not a money bill, but I think it will be a money bill because there are some issues that will come out and will be raised. So that, Madam Speaker, also we have to look at it. But this is a very important bill that every woman in this House must support this bill, because it's going to help very many families that are finding themselves in this challenge. And also you find that children who are in orphanages, Madam Speaker. So a child has lived in an orphanage, let's say her whole or his whole life. But then you realize when they come to the age of 17, they will want to now start, what's my identity? And those are some of the things we are saying. As you bring in care, both parents must agree. And if a child will also come out and say, I have never seen you as a father or a mother, and they decide the parent that has taken care of her is that parent that has taken care of Madam Speaker, then I'm hoping in the bill we are also trying to ensure we are safeguarding such children. That yes, you have a biological parent, but that parent never bothered about you. And so you went and found a foster parent who has taken care of you as a parent. In fact, nobody even knows whether this is your parent or not your parent. That is what the bill should be also addressing, because we have very many children today who are in that scenario. Madam Speaker, this Senate bill, co-sponsored by Beatrice Kemei, is also a bill that needs now to look at the different laws that we have for children, and so that we don't find ourselves having an overlap. So when you go to court, the judge is supposed to read the Children's Act, but you remember always the Constitution now takes present, and you have to ensure it's the principal law. And so how do we ensure we don't find ourselves in a court where now you have to quote so many laws for children to get their rights. So I think as we debate it, it will be very important for us to also look at those amendments and see whether we can bring in our own amendments also to enrich the bill more so that it takes care. If we are taking care and protection, then it protects the child. How do we ensure also it protects a child who is a minor but has also gone through a lot and is now in a juvenile court and needs assistance? Because I've realized, and I'll give an example, even though he's beyond a minor, this young man who just decided to beat a policeman. But nobody questioned whether this young man has had his own trauma, has gone through a lot, is a child either who has a single parent and is unable to understand what he's going through. But we cascade, and it's something we are doing very much to many children today as they grow, and they are becoming more radical and more aggressive in their lives to protect themselves. So as we talk of care and protection of a child, we must also address the issues of parents in that, and that if indeed a parent at a point that you have not stayed with your child for more than 10 years, then you can't just walk into this life and say, now you have arrived. There must be a process. That process has to be well stipulated within the bill, Madam Speaker, and therefore I beg to support.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kisauni.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kunipa fursa kuweza kuchangia mswada huu. Nichukue nafasi pia kuwaombea nafasi ya pili wale watoto wetu wa kike ambao wanapata ajali ya kuwa na ujauzito. Ni vyema asiachwe nje, apewe nafasi aweze kurudi, aendelee na masomo yake. Na vile vile mswada huu unaelekea kwamba utahitaji fedha, kwa sababu ikiwa itahitaji kwamba kuwe na majengo ya kuweza kuangalia watoto katika shule hizo, itahitaji fedha, na ikiwa itahitaji fedha ni kwamba huu mswada utachukua muda mrefu sana. Lakini Mheshimiwa Zamzam ameleta mswada ambao utakuwa rahisi kwa kuwalinda watoto wetu wa kike. Kwa hivyo imekaa tu pale kwa table office haikuji. Hiyo sioni shida, sioni tatizo liko wapi. Na hiyo ingetuletea njia rahisi ya kuwasaidia watoto wa kike. Yeye Mheshimiwa Zamzam anasaidia, ameonyesha moyo, anasaidia watoto zaidi 350 kule sehemu ya kaunti ya Mombasa walipata ujauzito. Kwa hivyo tunaomba kwamba hiyo yake iharakishwe iweze kuja. Na vile vile watoto wetu wa kike tunasema mujistiri ndio watoto wetu, msije mkapata hii mambo ya mimba za mapema, haziwasaidii. Kwa hivyo mimi Madam Speaker nimesimama kusupport kwamba watoto wa kike wapewe second chance, lakini pia wajistiri ili wasije ili jambo likawa la mazoea. Na hii yote sababishwa na mgoka. Lakini tunawatakia kula la heri. Mungu awabariki, waweze kujistiri ili waendelee na masomo mpaka wafike vyuo vikuu. Asante sana Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Marakwet West.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I rise to support this very progressive piece of legislation, that is the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill 2023. Honourable Speaker, this group of parents, what you call child parents, have for a long period of time been neglected by the society. Honourable Speaker, it is time that their fundamental rights are taken into account in order to protect them. Honourable Speaker, these are parents who are below the age of 18 years. These are parents who have born children at that particular age. Honourable Speaker, this group of parents have suffered discrimination and abuse from the Kenyan community. Honourable Speaker, This bill, of course, when it comes to the second reading, I will propose certain amendments that will go into the substance of the bill. Honorable Speaker, this bill further goes to provide what you call counseling and support services for those children who are, for those mothers who have born children below and are below the age of 18 years. Honorable Speaker, this element of counseling and support is very, very vital and important so that we nurture that young parent. Honorable Speaker, also the issue of confidentiality. Under clause 14 of the bill, it provides very clearly that every case of a child who falls pregnant in an institution of basic education and training shall be handled by the management of the institution in a manner that ensures confidentiality. These young children who are parents, when they get pregnant at a young age, normally they're embarrassed, they are cajoled, and it is time that their rights are protected and the issue of pregnancy be made confidential. Honorable Speaker, under clause 15 of the bill, this is an area that we must look forward and propose an amendment to it. Honorable Speaker, as a lawyer yourself, if you read that clause very carefully, it says where it is determined that a person responsible for pregnancy. Honorable Speaker, this is not right because at this stage, unless a paternity test is undertaken, you cannot determine at this stage whether someone is responsible for the pregnancy or not. So I will propose an amendment to the effect that where it is suspected, because at this stage, the element of suspicion comes in. It is only during paternity that a matter is determined with finality whether that person is the parent of the child or not. So, Honorable Speaker, that is an area that we must be able to look at carefully so that we also protect the interests of that would be father of that child. Honorable Speaker, under Article 50 of the Constitution, we have something called presumption of innocence until proven guilty. So at this stage, that would be father should be presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court of law. Honorable Speaker, the bill goes further to protect the interests of that child by subjecting that suspect under this particular proposed law to certain legal processes. Honorable Speaker, the Teachers' Code of Regulations is very clear on how to handle issues of teachers who are suspected of impregnating students. And the law is very clear on that, and I believe, Honorable Speaker, this clause should be read alongside the Teacher Service Commission Act of 2012 plus the Code of Regulation of Teachers of 2015, because it cannot be read in isolation. As it is here, Honorable Speaker, it is not determinate, it is not certain, it has not provided a clear framework on how to handle the issue of teachers. But I believe that we should have a clause that this law should be read together, of course, with the Teacher Service Commission Act and the Code of Regulations. Honorable Speaker, on the issue of readmission, young children, young girls who have been out of school courtesy of pregnancy have had it difficult going back to school. Schools have been reluctant to readmit young girls who got pregnant and therefore were not able to complete their studies. Now that we have a legal framework, we have a specific law that provides, that mandates our institutions from readmitting those young girls who have been out of school because of pregnancies. Honorable Speaker, finally, I support the establishment of care centers. Normally, most parents are not willing to embrace. When I say parents, I mean the mother of the child parents are not at times willing to take care of these young children who have been born. So, Honorable Speaker, the issue of caregivers is very important, is very vital, so that children born by young parents, or what you call the child parents, can be taken care of by at the care centers. So, Honorable Speaker, this is very progressive, and I support this bill. And I call upon the members of parliament that when it comes to the second reading, let us give the necessary amendments and pass the bill as it is. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Tindiret, Honorable Julius Meli.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill. And I want first of all to commend the co-sponsor and the Senate for coming out with such a very progressive bill, more specifically and tailored to the parent-child. Madam Speaker, many people in this country do not know the existence of parent-children, and these are children who are underage, who are actually less than 18 years, and they are as young as 10 years old. Madam Speaker, this bill seeks to really bring into perspective who a young parent is, or who is a child parent. The bill seeks, among many others, to first of all tell the society that there is a parent who is not of age, who is giving birth, who has a child. The two of them are not of age. Two, it also goes ahead to really note that this child parent has a right to go to school, has a right to medical care. A number of them, when they are giving birth, their body systems are still very weak. They need a lot of medical attention. They need to undergo clinical checkups every other time. But as the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has just pointed out, majority of the child parents are actually in rural areas, in pastoral communities, in households where the income is very low. This bill actually seeks to really bring awareness and to ensure that this particular child parent rights are well taken care of, as stated in the Constitution. That one, the child parent has to have proper medical care. The child parent has to undergo a lot of support socially, psychologically, and economically. This is a child who gets pregnant when she's in primary school. This is a child who gets expectant and having a baby when she's less than 12 or 13 or 14 years old. And every other time, she is actually stigmatized, and she is not even allowed to be heard. As the bill indicates, some schools, majority of them, do actually take forced pregnancy tests on these children. And immediately they are discovered, they are actually stigmatized. They are ostracized by the school heads, by parents, by communities, and they are actually shunned. This is the time now we need to take up and own. This is a serious problem. 15% of all the girls have either become pregnant, have either lost a child. That particular percentage, Madam Speaker, is very high and alarming. It is as a result of this bill, therefore, that the county governments are actually being alerted and told to come up with ways on how to stop these particular child, the young pregnancies, and more specifically, the child parent. After the child has given birth, the parents are supposed to know that is not the end of their education. They are supposed to be given permission to go to school. The parents of the parent child, who are the grandparents of the young child, are supposed to take care of this child. Take care of her, allow the mother child to go up to school, finish her education, and therefore realize her dreams as a Kenyan. Madam Speaker, this bill further goes on to ensure that we established centers which will take care of these children in areas where the real parents are not able to do that. That's why county governments have been roped in and are informed that these particular children are supposed to be taken care of and allowed to continue with their lives. So this bill is very important, Madam Speaker. However, I want to note that the bill with the establishment of county centers is a money bill. And I want to note that this is a very important bill that this House needs to really come up with ways on making sure that it is implemented it becomes the law of the land, and by extension, it is going to make sure that many of the children dropouts that we have in this society are actually taken care of. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the child of the child parent also is of concern. He is a citizen of this country. Whereas the mother is of underage, this child has a right to be taken care of medically, to undergo all the medical, the postnatal medical services, taken through the clinics, taken through the medical treatment, and be allowed also to grow up, because if the child parent is not assisted, she will engage in child labor. And by extension, her child or the child of the child parent will now not have the necessary services of good health, going to education, and even going to preschool. So this bill is actually good for us, and I ask the House to support it. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Narok North, Honourable Agnes Pareo, and Honourable Members, I'm allowing members to ventilate on this issue because we shall not rule on the issue raised by Honourable T.J. Kajwang of Ruaraka today, but until we get the feedback and notes from the Budget Committee. So I'm hoping that Honorable Kemei, member for Kericho, you're taking notes, and then we shall be able to put the question at that time. But right now, let's just allow members to ventilate. Honorable Member for Narok North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this bill. And this is a bill that takes care or looks into problems that our young girls below 18 go through after dropping from school as a result of pregnancies. And this is a subject that is in my heart because I do rescue these girls, and I know what they go through. These girls, after involving themselves with the early sex, they find themselves pregnant, and some of them are confused and don't even know who they are, and they don't know where to run to. Because some of these parents don't take responsibility of taking care of these girls. So there is need to have a bill like this one that will make sure that has provided to provide a framework for the protection of the rights set out under Article 53(1) and C and D of the Constitution in relation to child parents. Because these girls become parents, yet their age is not enough for them to take care of these girls, their children, because they are confused. And the bill will provide a framework through which the expectant girl child and a child parent can realize their rights to education and at the same time ensure the care and protection of his or her child we need to offer education to these girls because education is power. And when you give a child education, this child will realize her rights and can know how to earn a living for her child. So I think it has come at the right time that we need to support these girls so that they can have an opportunity, a second opportunity, to make sure that they have realized their goals. Because it doesn't mean that because she's pregnant and she has dropped from school, she cannot be who she wanted to be. So we need to give them another chance by the government supporting these girls and making sure that they get a time to go back to school and they are supported, and they need a lot of counseling because some of them are not sure whether they did the right thing or no. And their parents sometimes force these girls to run away from their homes because they look at them like they are a burden. So for me, I support this bill that will give this child a second chance of going to school, and that cannot deny them their right. Being pregnant cannot deny the right of these girls being who they wanted to be, and they can still achieve their goals. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Suba North, Honourable Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this
Honorable
opportunity.
Rosa, please allow Honorable Millie Odhiambo to speak.
Madam Speaker, there's just a lot of excitement.
Much obliged, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, there's a lot of excitement in relation to ongoing issues relating to the finance bill. And as you know, our party is having a parliamentary group meeting. I know that your party had a parliamentary group meeting in the morning. And I'm sure the party will give a position after that. But I'm glad at least people are listening to Kenyans, which is a good thing. Madam Speaker, I just want to say that in principle, I support this bill, but I just want to point out some certain issues around it. And Madam Speaker, even as I'm speaking, I would want to urge Honorable Kaluma to listen to me, because he normally purports to know things about children's issues, even if he's my uncle, but I am an expert in this area more than him. And
Glad you
I would
added
want
the word purports.
You are helping him, Madam Speaker. Have you given him or I proceed?
Allow Honorable Millie to prosecute her matter first.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will proceed.
No.
I will proceed,
Kaluma,
Madam Speaker. I have
Proceed,
said that
Honorable
in principle, I support this bill. However, I just want to comment on certain issues that also relate to some of the things that members have said. And that is that even though I support this bill in principle, the architecture of this bill is challenging. The reason why I want to say the architecture of this bill is challenging, Madam Speaker, number one, is the government normally has a policy on how you legislate on certain issues. And in the children's sector in the last parliament, I brought a child justice bill, and I was encouraged to collapse the child justice bill into the Children Act, because in the past we had almost 66 pieces of legislation relating to children. The government formed a task force that was headed by retired Chief Justice F. War that agreed that we come up with one law on children so that we don't give lawyers a difficult task. When I was representing children, when I was the director of the Cradle, it meant if I wanted to deal with adoption, I had to look for the Adoption Act. If I wanted to deal with the issues of orphans, I would look at the Orphans and Vulnerable Children's Act. If I wanted to look at, there were over 66 pieces of legislation. That doesn't mean that what is provided in this law is wrong. It is actually excellent. But the architecture is not good. Should we kill the bill because of this? Perhaps not. And especially because a member has put in too much effort. But it talks to an executive that is asleep. The executive should advise members, and not only the executive, but also the parliamentary office. And in this case, it is the Senate Legal Office, should have offered guidance. The fact that members want to bring bills doesn't mean you bring it in any format. What they should have done, Madam Speaker, is bring an amendment to the Children Act, so that all that is provided here is in the Children Act. Madam Speaker, all that is contained here is what we call children in need of care and protection. And if you actually look at this bill carefully, it contains primarily two major issues: readmission of children who are pregnant into school, and protection of children who have given birth. It is not even dealing with the criminal justice aspect, which is covered under the Sexual Offences Act. And I'm saying in principle, I support this act, but I wish it was done differently. The honorable member has gone quite a long distance, but I'm encouraging the House leadership, both Senate and National Assembly, to the legal departments, take your work seriously. Because the fact that members want to move in, you are the ones who are experts as lawyers, advise them how to do this. And the reason why I'm putting back again to the executive, the same way you asked me to move my child justice bill, which was even in substance, had more critical issues, but we collapsed it and made it smaller as a chapter in the Children Act. Because as a policy, the government had agreed that we collapse all children matters into one. It appears that there is no longer any policy relating to children, because if you look at our budget, for instance, right now, you see we are putting a lot of money into institutionalizing children. Yet the government policy has been against institutionalization. What are we doing? We are building centers to institutionalize children. It means we have no clue what our policy as a government is in relation to institutionalization of children. That is also appearing here. And I want to encourage the president that as soon as he's done with the challenges relating to the finance bill and his deputy, can he then work on the issue of ensuring that there is a clear policy that emanates from the executive to legislation. I've said this in this house, and it might be taken lightly, but in reality, that speaks to a government that is dysfunctional. The right hand does not know what the left hand does. Even when it is private members' bill, it must follow the policy of the government of the day. And that is why, for me, for instance, even though I wanted my child justice bill, the government policy of Uhuru at that time was towards one bill. I let mine die. So that is a reality we have to deal with. Other than that, Madam Speaker, I want to encourage the members. You know, when I'm listening sometimes to what I hear the members saying, I feel very sad when I hear members saying that, you know, in our culture, girls are getting married at 17. And my brother from Kibra, I think he has already left. But I have to invite him to the Parliamentary Caucus on Children and Parliamentarians for Global Action, which are human rights organization for parliamentarians globally. I chair both networks in Kenya. And as a country, we have progressed over the years. We have actually ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We have raised standards on protecting our children, that we cannot talk because of men's libido that we lower the age for our children. Madam Speaker, in fact, nowadays it's the opposite. People are amused that I'm sharing that on this finance bill. There is a young man who has written to me when people are writing and telling me, Madam Speaker, stop, make sure the finance bill does not pass. Make sure the finance bill does not pass. A young man instead is writing to me that I am young but I have inches, Madam Speaker. So it is actually the reverse. It's the young men who are now very keen on looking for retirees like me. I don't mean I've retired in my work, but I've retired in that other sector. Telling me about inches. What do I do with inches, Madam Speaker? But what I'm saying is, even for those ones, we must protect our young boys from people, I think we call them coggers or something, who are maybe older, but may want to take advantage of young boys who are young and poor and want to take advantage by giving them money. But in this instance, when a girl is below 18, a boy is below 18, we presume that legally they cannot have sex. And the only challenge we are having under the Sexual Offences Act is ensuring that when they have sex with each other, we treat them as children in need of care and protection. But this is actually dealing with a civil issue emanating from a criminal act. And so, because of the honorable member who has put in so much effort, I will support it, but I would wish that the architecture was done better. I would have spoken more, Madam Speaker, but because of time, just ask those, some of us who are experts in these areas. We can help you and support you. I support, but I wish we would change the architecture, and I'll bring amendments in relation to some of the issues I've seen herein. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Millie Odhiambo. And I think the Honorable Member for Kericho, Honorable Kemei, I hope you're taking notes. This is a very important issue on the architecture and I think it's something that can be discussed at the committee level. I'm glad that Honorable Millie has raised it. She knows we have come a long way with the Children's Act together. So I think do liaise with her. She has a lot of information and knowledge on this particular point. The Honorable Member for Homa Bay Town.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I'm going to come to you.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Member.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, it is in very rare occasions that we agree with the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, who is my niece. But Honorable Speaker, today I agree with Honorable Millie Odhiambo, except where she says I purport to know a lot about children's matters. Honorable Speaker, I had intervened because unknown to Honorable Millie, I was taught by the Honorable Speaker law. The one area of law you specialized in at the University of Nairobi and you taught me was the subject of children and the law. And Honorable Millie does not know that inspired by the depth of your teaching, I went ahead and did my master's, specializing on, among others, the law relating to protection of the children. And that is what I would disaccount from Honorable Millie. The idea that she was besmirching not just my knowledge, but also the expertise of the best expert on matters children, who happens to be our speaker now. But we forgive her because she has spoken the language I desire to speak. Honorable Speaker, I had a meeting with our First Lady a short while back. And it was a meeting which went for over 3 hours. I was touched by the passion of the First Lady on matters children. And Honorable Speaker, what I want to confirm to the House is that we have a First Lady who is looking at how we can deal with matters of children and adequately protect them. For the first time, it may have passed the notice of honorable members here, but there is a budget line under what we call Children's of the Nation, which is a new program of the national government to be implemented by the First Lady. And the Children of the Nation program, Honorable Speaker, remember our First Lady was previously focused on women, Joiwa and others. The First Lady is henceforth going to be very focused on matters concerning children. And I was confirming to the House that when you looked at our budget lines very clearly, you saw an item called Children of the Nation program under the office of the First Lady. And that I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, to confirm that matters concerning children are matters which concern the leadership of our nation, and more so our current mother of the nation. Honorable Speaker, you would also remember the speech of His Excellency the President at Safari Park during the launch of the G7 to G16 caucus. The President requested that we focus on the matter of teenage pregnancies, early marriages, FGM, and all those consequences. I'm happy the First Lady picked it up, and of course, I want to thank Parliament for budgeting for it so that we can take it seriously. Honorable Speaker, leaving that background aside, let me now speak to the matters you taught me. Honorable Speaker, this bill is very good in substance. And I can tell you I'm very happy we are having clear framework in terms of how we need to establish, these child care centers, both at the county and how they should be supervised. I can tell you in Bomet a short while back, you remember somebody calling himself a philanthrope opened a children care center somewhere in Bomet. And what was happening there was that our children were being sodomized. Our children were being affected. And this is happening in so many institutions around. The minister, under whose docket matters children, fall, has said times without a number, Honorable Speaker, that a time has come when we need to consider whether we will need childcare institutions established by government and abolish these other ones, or what should be done. In fact, she recommended abolition. But Honorable Speaker, beyond the substance, let me say, this bill must be rejected by the National Assembly. Not because it provides or it makes bad provisions, but because it is not rightly placed. It is not rightly placed. Honorable Speaker, before we came with the current Marriage Act, we had a marriage law providing for Hindu marriages. We had a marriage law providing for civil marriages. We had African Tradition and Customary Marriages Act. We had the Muslims were under their Sharia law. And with your advice and teaching, you said, let us collapse all these laws into a single law dealing with marriage, so that even for practicing lawyers and for anybody who want to make references to know what the law in Kenya is about marriage, you pick the Marriage Act and all those forms and modes of marriages will be provided for there. Honorable Speaker, it is in that light, you remember, in the last parliament, I think it was in the 12th parliament, that we had the original Children's Act, but we had other issues concerning children in various piecemeal laws. And we made a decision, therefore, to collapse all these laws to the current Children's Act. It's a very comprehensive law. I am therefore requesting members of the National Assembly that we don't want to go back to a situation where instead of going into the Children's Act and picking a single statute, and it will be your Bible or Quran on all matters affecting children, which is the ideal position in terms of proper legislation and even legal practice across the world, you want to take us to a situation where we have the Children's Act dealing with all issues concerning the children. You go to the Constitution, Article 53, you read it, you leave it there. You pick a law just on care and protection of child parents. You pick another law on children with disability. You will pick another law on orphaned children. You will pick another law on children in the context of, criminal offenses, the Romeo and Juliet cases. You pick another law on children whose parents are in marriage. You pick another law on children whose children are not in marriage, single parents. We cannot go that way. And that would be the pathway, Honorable Speaker, to confusing the body of law relating to children. I therefore want to speak, and I know the mover is keenly listening. We want to send the mover to go and tell the proponent of the bill in the House of Senate that this is not about the merit of the bill, but we are rejecting this bill so that these good and noble provisions can be picked and an appropriate amendment brought into the Children's Act, and so that consistently we have one comprehensive law which speaks to all matters concerning children. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Millie has spoken to the issue of policy, and it is very important. I am happy she has done so, but I was praying that she's around so that I also tell her that just the same way you are saying we should have policy from government, let us also allow government, when they say we have a government policy on this law you are bringing or you are proposing as a private member, collapse it or wait for us to bring a law which is informed by that government policy. It has happened to a law being pushed by Honorable Millie here. We will now not speak about it because she has gone. Where the Attorney General has said, we have a policy on this, and on the basis of that policy, we have drafted a law which the Attorney General has proved, but the laws are still being pursued. I want to say that on account of the need for a single comprehensive law, Honorable Speaker, a Bible on matters concerning children, let us collapse this bill, and we would be urging so, and we would urge the proponent before this floor and the proponent in the Senate to sit together and pick these good provisions so that we don't lose them, but have them as amendment provisions to the Children's Act so that we don't scatter matters concerning children all over. Honorable Speaker, on account of those submissions, I allay any fears that we can do anything other than that which upholds Article 53 and protects our children, but to say that going by the need to securely provide and protect our children, we will reject this law hoping if the proponent of this law does not pick it in and domicile it within the Children's Act, even us Honorable Speaker members will pick it and do so. It's not about...
Thank you very much, honorable members. I can see that I still have the honorable member for Moiben, the honorable member for Tarbo, the honorable member for Funyula. But allow me, honorable members, I will give you an opportunity, but allow me to go back to order number 5, which had been pending, and then we shall come back to those members who need to contribute to this matter. So we go back to order number 5, the Honorable Chairperson for the Finance Committee, Honorable Kimani Kuria.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You can lay your paper, and then we shall resume debate on the matter.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, the 18th of June, 2024. The report on the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on its consideration of the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2024. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. I think, honorable members, we can now resume debate. The honorable member for Funyula. We shall resume debate, and then we shall proceed to the honorable member for Tarbo, then the honorable member for Moiben. You may proceed, member for Funyula.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to also contribute on the Senate bill, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill 2023. And I do so, Honorable Speaker, first of all, as a father of girls, and also a father of very many other girls. I also do so that Honorable Speaker, I also do so that when I got an opportunity to be elected a member of parliament for Funyula in 2017, we have had to encounter this kind of scenario and to have had to be very ingenious on how to deal with this matter. Honorable Speaker, perusing through this bill, Honorable Speaker, brings out some very salient issues that are becoming very common and is permeating our modern society. And it's a matter that I'm afraid this particular bill only perpetuates the problem, does not even seem to try to solve the root cause of the problem. Honorable Speaker, for us to have the kind of scenario we have, to even contemplate having a bill of this nature, is an admission that parenting in this country has failed. We are trying to legalize a matter that is purely a moral matter, a parenting matter, a religious matter. It confirms our fears that the entire ecosystem that takes care of the children has collapsed. The church has failed, the parents have failed, the community has failed, the entire kinship system of the family has failed. So therefore, we are trying to solve a problem using legislation, a problem that can also be solved elsewhere. Second, Honorable Speaker, this bill is good, it has got very good intention. But unfortunately, Honorable Speaker, going through this bill seems to be very short of useful content, seems to be basically a cut and paste of matters that can be dealt administratively and the matters of policy. Honorable Speaker, I also want to join my colleagues TJ Kajwang that reading through this bill is pure and straightforward a money bill. And the Constitution of Kenya is very clear how we generate a money bill. And as we have clearly said, we'll have an opportunity at the right time, the substantive speaker or the Budget and Appropriation Committee to give us guidance on that matter. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, this bill purports to take away the functions that are already domiciled in various acts of parliament, that are already available in various administrative offices. Issues of children are adequately and elaborately contained in the Children's Act. Issues how to deal with the children who want to go to school are clearly contained in the Basic Education Act. One wonders why. Issues to do with the crimes and all those kind of things. Some already dealt with in the Sexual Offences Act. Some already dealt with the Penal Act. I do not know what intention are we going to create. Are we going to create another problem that does not even exist? Honorable Speaker, I am a Catholic, and our Catholic faith and way is very clear. Where I come from, we have ways how to deal with the criminals, child indiscipline, and truants. This is a matter. The honorable ladies who are here, the fathers who are here, to allow the state to cringe in your area is an admission of a failed society. It's a matter we can deal with at society level. Honorable Speaker, a danger looms in this bill. This bill purports to give the county government powers to supervise the national government. Basic education is mandated in the national government. Asking the CEC in charge of, I don't know, to administer the bill, CEC in charge of whichever education at the county level to superimpose and instruct county director of education, we're already walking into the murky areas. And that's why I want to join my colleague Millie, that yes, we empathize with the efforts expended by the sponsor of this bill in the Senate. But honestly, here in this case, Honorable Speaker, our legal team, our drafting team, have laid down the sponsor, have laid down Senate, have laid down Parliament, and have laid down the people of Kenya. Members of Parliament, whether a senator or a member of Parliament, are not experts in legislative drafting. And that's why the office is populated with adequate number of technical people who ought to advise that the way the bill is drafted, it's impossible to implement. Honorable Speaker, this bill is impossible to implement. Honorable Speaker, there is a policy now to abolish children's homes. There is a policy to minimize custodial arrangements. Yet, care center, the way it's defined, is another name of a children's home. And this country has got a very bad history of children's home. Abuse, trafficking, sexual violence, sexual abuse. And I thought, Honorable Speaker, you would have to deal with that matter in that way. Looking at this bill, they contemplate the child will go back to school after winning the baby. If they contemplate a child who is pregnant and in school and has got medical challenges and has to attend prenatal, I don't know whatever it's called, the school will give an opportunity to cover up the lost hours or minutes in school. How practical is that, Honorable Speaker? Any typical Kenyan, any typical school manager, how practical is it? Would a teacher stop teaching because one of the pregnant girl in class has gone to prenatal, whatever you call it, clinic? Will you force the teacher to provide remedial classes for this child who returns after the others have gone home? Again, that's against the policy of the government. How can we really even consider that kind of a matter? Honorable Speaker, there's a clause here, I think clause 6.2. The prevention programs established under Section 1 shall involve the parents and the guardians of the children in the governance of institutions of basic education. The governance of basic education institutions, Honorable Speaker, is clearly established in the Basic Education Act. The bill does not anywhere purport, even the schedule or anywhere, to amend the Basic Education Act to include parents of pregnant children in the board of management of the school. legislation in vain, impossible to approve. Honorable Speaker, I just want to tell the Kenyans people, these child care centers they're talking about, when you go to clause 21 of the bill, 2, a county government may, for the purpose of subsection 1, establish care centers in or within the vicinity of an institution of basic education and training in order to ensure access to such facilities by a child parent. What are we telling our girls? Go get pregnant, we'll put a nursery, a baby nursery, next to your classroom. Is it what any parent would wish his or her child to go through? Is that the kind of morality we want to teach our children? Honorable Speaker, as I said, the intention is good.
What's your point of order, Honorable Bayer? Okay.
The intention is good. I can see where the drafter is coming from. Probably has also grappled with the case of second chance, how the kids go back to school. But honestly speaking, this is a legislation that ought not to have come here. This legislation should have gone to the Children's Act and basically made amendments to the Children's Act, gone to the Basic Education Act. In any case already provided, a child shall not be discriminated against on whatever ground is already covered for. And you, Honorable Speaker, those of us who are MPs, know that children in our places, when they get unfortunate and become pregnant, they are admitted back to school. We do not need any policy. Actually, already a policy exists. So, Honorable Speaker, I'm always very constrained. I feel sad to oppose a private member's bill. But for this, allow me to oppose, and if it proceeds to the next level, we'll bring amendments that might basically leave it a worthless piece of paper. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Bayer, since you said you don't have a point of order, allow me to allow Honorable Phyllis Barto and then yourself to speak if you want to contribute. Yes, you can speak after her.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the chance also to add my voice on this bill. And I would like to congratulate the Member of Parliament, Kericho, for taking this bold step to bring this bill. Madam Speaker, children, especially when they are not catered for, they become very vulnerable. And more so if the parents or if the people who gave birth to the children are also coming from another background, vulnerable background. So we have a child who is from a vulnerable, and the child is also vulnerable. While I was transversing my constituency recently, I came across so many issues. I came across so many children facing serious challenges because they were given birth by their mothers out of wedlock or when they were still in school, and they are left to their grandparents, and the grandparents don't even know what to do with them because possibly the mothers who gave birth to these children have run away from home because they cannot provide for them. It becomes very problematic. And those are the children, those are the parents, the young parents, the children who are now in the business of the illicit brews. They are the children who are in our streets because somebody somewhere or something somewhere is wrong. Madam Speaker, even the idea of going to school, we find that when we are even giving out bursaries, the bulk of the needy cases we have are those children who are abandoned by their mothers because they got pregnant when they were young, they left them, and these kids are left to their grandparents. The grandparents are aging, there is nothing, they cannot protect them. So, in as much as I support this bill, Madam Speaker, it is also important to note that we have several bits and pieces of legislations on these on issues touching children. The Children Act, Madam Speaker, I think has been progressive, and there are so many legislations which have been done on issues affecting children. Even the Children's Court, Madam Speaker, I think caters for so many of these issues. It's only that I think the mover of the bill should redraft it in as much as she wanted to bring a framework to look into issues of children. I think she needs to go back to the drawing board and redraft it and churn out real issues which are not catered for, so that we can have one very comprehensive act which caters for all issues, because we cannot legislate every piece of issue, because society is progressive and we'll be having several challenges facing children from different perspectives in different forms and so on. So we need to have one umbrella one umbrella law which caters for all children, and will be so that we don't have several pieces and bits here, so that even in a court of law we can have ambiguous laws which one deletes another, and I think it is important to have one comprehensive one. Madam Speaker, the issue of education, I think nobody denies anyone to go back to school after they get pregnant. I think the Basic Education Act is very clear. You are allowed to go to school. Young mothers have been given an opportunity that if you fall by the wayside, you can still pick up yourself, get up somewhere for the child to stay, and then you can go to school. So we need to comp out the issues which we anchor them all in the education, in the Children's Act. And to an extent that even nowadays, Madam Speaker, our courts of law are going back to the alternative justice systems, because we cannot always have everything done in a court of law, but it is providing frameworks for people to sort out issues, societal issues, through a way of alternative system. And they have, I think the Chief Justice and the entire judicial system has come up with a very comprehensive ways of sorting out these issues in a very harmonious way, or making the people decide. But of course, for children, it becomes problematic because children issues are children issues. They can be mismanaged. And we also have to be very careful so that we don't destroy the moral fabric of society. Why do I say this? Because we should not just encourage or plan for an illegality. For instance, a young girl having sex at an underage. I mean, that one, there's also a provision in law for that. So we shouldn't be we shouldn't look into it so much to an extent that now we go back and destroy the moral fabric. We love people young girls getting pregnant, and because they know the child will be protected, the child will be taken care of, the child will be taken to a center, a care center, a child will be provided for in terms of medication and so on, to an extent that we forget that morality is also important. And it should be very clear, it should be made very clear that when you are a child, when you are a student, sex is a no-go zone. Wait until you are of age, go to school until you are done with your school, and then the rest comes. I mean, you do the right thing at the right time. But in an event that there is an accident, it's accidental, that you got a child when you are underage, or you are defiled, or I mean those which are accidental, then now we can look at such issues, but should be provided in an umbrella Children's Act, so that we don't have bits and pieces of legislation dealing with this issue. Today, somebody else will come to bring another bill on another aspect of the Children's Act, another one. So we should just have one umbrella. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity.
Honorable Member for Kilifi North, Honorable Baya.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, issues and matters of children are very delicate and complicated, and therefore must be handled that way. And when we bring in a lot of legislation, pieces of legislation on matters children, we continue to expound the problems that bedevil children. That said, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the mover of this motion, the co-sponsor of this motion, Honorable Beatrice Kemei, and I want to congratulate her for being one of the very few members of Parliament to bring a fresh bill into Parliament. A lot of us have brought amendments, but here she is presenting a whole bill into the National Assembly. And I want to congratulate you for that effort and ask you that as we speak here and as many people contribute, please take notes so that you can improve on that. But congratulations on that feat. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, sometimes we might handle simple situations in a more complicated manner and handle complicated situations in a simpler way. Why am I saying this? Some of these issues have already been legislated, and some of them are policies that are out there. For example, when a child gets pregnant, a girl gets pregnant after she delivers, she can go back to school. That is given, and that is practical, and that is happening. Do we need to legislate on that? Honorable Speaker, a lot of the things that are in this bill are things that parents should do. Do we want to legislate on what a parent must do, what he must not do? Are we not becoming superfluous in legislation? I know the Honorable Speaker is a renowned professor of law. And when we come and we speak matters of law here in this house, we have to be very careful. And that's what I'm trying to do, so that I don't offend a lot of the knowledge that is out there. But I also want to say this. I want to say this, that the girl who gets pregnant, and I want to refer to a message that a lady called Lewa, Kasichana Lewa, has sent to me and said, Honorable Member of Parliament, when a girl gets pregnant in school, she's sent away, but the boy remains in school and continues to study. And yet it took the two to make the pregnancy. But because it is the girl that carries the pregnancy, then she's seen as the bad person, but the boy is innocent. Honorable Speaker, we say this child must go home, but when this child comes back to school, she still has the burden of taking care of that child. These are contradictions, these are things that we must look at. But Honorable Speaker, I have only one issue. When we legislate and make it law, what are we also telling the girls? It is legal to get pregnant at school. I don't know whether that is, it's okay. It's okay, because if I'm a father of daughters, proudly, I'm a father of daughters. Now, when you're a father of daughters, then daughter, if you say, hey, please take care of yourself, don't get pregnant at school. My daughter, being clever, she'll tell me, but you see, Dad, the law provides that if I get pregnant, I can still continue to school, so why are you stopping me from getting pregnant? So these are some of the interesting things that we need to look at. The issues of morality, the issues of legality are things that we must look at as we legislate on matters children. My caution, Honorable Speaker, and I want to associate myself with the sentiment of the Honorable Millie Odhiambo. There are many, very many confusing pieces of legislation, and we need to bring this together. I'd rather that Beatrice, although I've congratulated her for bringing the attempt to bring in a legislation as this, but probably we needed to make amendments in the Children Act so that we amalgamate a lot of these things into one act, so that at the end of the day, we have one piece of legislation on children that can easily be referred to in court, and lawyers can use it, and even lay people are able to read it and understand. Honorable Speaker, I have one thing that I must say here. What is the role of Senate as provided in the Constitution? What is the role of Senate? We're having now very many bills coming from Senate to the National Assembly. And some of these pieces of legislation that have come from the Senate to the National Assembly, they lose when they come to the National Assembly because there is better and more robust scrutiny of bills here in the National Assembly. I do not think the drafters of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, having been there, really, they wanted Senate to make laws, even within the realm that is not within as defined in the Schedule 4, you know? But they have been attempting to do that. I have seen a lot of bills that are coming from the Senate in areas that are not theirs. The realm of primary schools and education is within national government. But then we have laws that are being made from the Senate and coming to this chamber that are actually of that nature. And yet, there are so many things that must be done at the county level, but Senate ignores and does not want to deal with issues for which they were created. I want to tell the senators, we have many issues in the counties that require intervention. There are many things that must be done at the counties. Concentrate there. We are 349 members in this National Assembly. We can handle the issues that concern the functions of Schedule 4 for the national government. So, Honorable Speaker, this is a law that requires a better scrutiny. This is a law that requires us to look at it deeply. This is a law that we need to be so careful so that we do not injure the already existing laws. But I have issues with this. I will bring them in the amendment. So in the amendments, when we get to amendment stage, so that we can make this a better law. Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Turbo, Honorable Janet Sitiane.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And on the onset, I would wish to thank the member of Kericho for bringing in this very important bill. Madam Speaker, this bill speaks to the challenges facing our society and our parents in the constituencies, in the country as a whole. Many of these children, Madam Speaker, are actually victims of sexual abuse. And majorly, you will find that these children who have dropped out and suffered sexual abuse are as a result of relatives, adults, border, and peers, and their own peers. And you find, Madam Speaker, that what the member is trying to address is that already we have a number of children who have dropped out. And as much as the Ministry of Education has accepted that children should go back to school even after they have gotten pregnant, it is also our responsibility that these children we must ensure that they get access to education and complete their studies. It is also our responsibility that once these children have fallen victim of this pregnancy, the government, we should take responsibility to provide prenatal care, to provide postnatal care to these children, as well as an education to this child parent. Because that child that has been born by this child parent is a future generation that we need to keep healthy, that we need to protect, because that is a future generation that we need to take care of. Madam Speaker, more important is that we should be looking for preventive mechanisms. How do we stop this vice? We need to identify the factors that lead to this kind of early pregnancy, early school dropout to our children, so that we address it. And of importance is that we should go out and develop programs and put programs in place for intervention measures to ensure that the number of pregnancies or dropout children should be reduced to the minimum. And that calls to the society. We need to sensitize the society, Madam Speaker, on upholding our moral values, on going back to the societal fabric and ensuring that we speak to the moral values and the societal fabric to prevent these particular vices, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you ask for statistics, you will be really shocked. And many of these children that fall victim to this sexual abuse and hence drop out of school, many of them are the children that fall victim as orphans through maybe HIV, fall victim as orphans and are taken care of by grandparents who are elderly and poor. So they are vulnerable children who actually fall victim of this vice. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I think our honorable member was trying to address these issues of preventing early pregnancies. And once it has occurred, that those that are already there should be catered for and protected and taken care of. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I want to agree with Honorable Kaluma and the Honorable Leader that we actually need to harmonize these bits of legislation so that it is in one compact bill to address all the issues of our children and the parent children and the children of the parent children, so that it is all harmonized and then we can take a complete care of society. But this does not stop us as a society, Madam Speaker, of going back and looking at what happened. Where did we go wrong? Where did the rain start beating us? For us to be able to have so many children dropping out of school and missing out on an education. But I thank the government because they have agreed that every child that gets pregnant should go back to school. And whereas this child goes back to school, I think we must also look at the peers so that we control this vice, that when these children, I've always said within my constituency and talked to the parents, that when this girl child goes home for maternity, the boy child must also be disciplined on the same level as the girl. If this girl goes on maternity, there must be something on this boy child who made this girl pregnant. He must also be given some leave or some kind of punishment so that we can stop this kind of vice and stop setting precedents. Because from what we are discussing, it looks like we want to set precedents that we allow these girls to continue getting pregnant. We shouldn't. But since it has occurred and we know the vulnerability that led to it, then we need to address and support these children so that they can get an education, and even these children can grow up into well taken care of adults, and there should be a setup that takes and protects even the children that are born by these child mothers. Honorable Speaker, I want to support my colleague and also suggest that she can go back and look at this bill and see whether to harmonize with the Children's Act so that we can have just one legislation that addresses all other issues that touch our children. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to add my voice to it.
Thank you, and I see that no other members want to contribute, so I'd like to call upon the mover to reply. Honorable Beatrice Kemei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity and to reply. First, I want to thank all the members who have taken keen interest on this bill I realized, Madam Speaker, issues of children is touching everybody. And from all the members who have contributed, it is very clear that as a house, we need to take issues of children very, very seriously. And the many points that they have given me to note on the first case that whether this is a money bill or not, I will still consult, Madam Speaker, with the Budget Committee to look into this issue. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I want to appreciate the fact that some of our members have taken a step to support the teen mothers to go back to school. Honorable Samsam have said of the same. And I want to also be proud that from Kericho County, where I am, the woman rep, have taken back to school over 250 teen mothers. And the way members have spoken, just like what Honorable Janet has said, these are vulnerable children, Madam Speaker. I picked some of them brewing. I have a specific girl who was brewing, and because of this program of full scholarship, she went back to school. She's now in Form 2, but she's left 2 children under the care of a mother who was also brewing and still brewing. So this is one of the issues of concern, that these children giving birth to children also need to be supported. Some of these children run away from home, Honorable Speaker, because of the circumstances at home. Very vulnerable, very poor parents. And because of that, they are not able. The only thing they get is maybe support from the so-called boyfriends to give them 20 shillings, maybe for sanitary towels, maybe for mandasi or something like that. That is the more reason we need to give them this support, Honorable Speaker. I would want to say that from all the members who have spoken, there is one thing that we all agreed: to allow these children to go back to school. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, to compress, maybe to have this bill incorporated in the Children's Act or issues. And it is very clear, Honorable Speaker, from the members that we have very many pieces of acts dealing with children that needs to be compressed. But however, I'm still to push on with this bill to maybe be supported and guided by the likes of Honorable Millie, and of course yourself being that lawyer, Honorable Speaker. I know you will be of great help. Honorable Speaker, I would also say that from the contribution of the members, morality is key. So the fact that this bill comes forth to support and to help those children who have given birth at that tender age does not qualify or let the others also give birth or make it an immoral thing. Honorable Speaker, when we were growing up, we knew that sex before marriage is wrong. And because of the many other factors, you realize that it is just something that our children do not look at it as very wrong, but we still need to correct. And Honorable Speaker, we realize that many of our daughters, many of our girls are out of school for these reasons, and many others are covering. So this bill indeed is actually to support and not to forget these children who are giving birth to children don't even go for these clinics. And that is why bringing this bill is just to ask them and to support them to go for the prenatal and the antenatal clinics, Honorable Speaker. So I would really say that, and I appreciate for all those who have actually contributed to the same. And I would say that we'll still look into it, but not forgetting this fact that 15% of our children are these children who give birth, and we cannot sit back and look at it. The care centers, one of the members mentioned that it is like a children's home. This children's home, Honorable Speaker, is owned by maybe the church or individuals. But when you're talking of these care centers, it is the responsibility from the bill of the county governments to put up these centers. So it is just maybe not an individual kind of a thing, so that they look into it carefully, and therefore they will be in a position to guide and even to monitor what is going on in the centers, Honorable Speaker. But however, I want to really appreciate this fact that members came up very strongly, not forgetting that this Senate bill originated from the Senate, but it is here. And I want to confirm to this Honorable House that we have brilliant members in the National Assembly, and I am ready to work with them and even to consult some of them so that we move to the next level. To that, I reply, and thank you, Honorable Speaker. I reply.
Thank you, and I will defer seeking to put the question for the reasons that I had given earlier, that there seem to be need for more consultation and reference regarding this matter, and therefore I call for the next order.
Order number 14, the Mang Pins Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2022, second reading.
We also deferred that matter. The member who's sponsoring the bill had requested, because he had to go to another meeting, the Honorable Paul Nzengu. So let's move to the next order, Order 15.
Order number 15, motion, reports of the Auditor General on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 9 constituencies in Bungoma County.
I think for the same reasons, we'll move to the next order.
Order number 16, motion, public petition on funds spent contrary to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution.
Next order.
Order number 17, motion, reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of specified state corporations.
Also, we defer that matter to the next time, next order.
Order number 18, motion, enhancing reporting of parliamentary business on online platforms.
Again, the matter is deferred. Next order.
Order number 19, motion, inspection visit to semi-autonomous institutions of the East African Community in Uganda.
The chairperson also requested for that to be deferred to a later time, so we move to the next order.
Order number 20, motion, implementation status of reports on petitions and resolutions passed by the House.
That matter is also deferred. Let's move to the next one.
Order number 21, motion, alleged unfair trade practices by foreign investors in Kenya.
The matter is also deferred. Let's move to the next motion.
Order number 22, motion, second report on employment diversity audit in public institutions.
The matter is also deferred. Next order.
Order number 23, the Landlords Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 76 of 2023, second reading.
The matter is also deferred, and now there being no other business,
Honorable members, the time being 6 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, 19th June 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Bado mina rap kawarengo kocha wise wana matauti